Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Atharva, hi. Uh, Talking after a
Hi,
long time.
Som. Yeah.
Uh, just watched The Zone of Interest, and this was one of the movies that you highly recommended, and
Yes.
for pushing me to watch since the last month, I would say, right
Mm-hmm.
from before the Oscars. But I got the chance to watch it yesterday. So just wanted to
Oh,
hear your thoughts about the film and what did you think of it? Uh, any points that you would like to highlight?
oh yes. So I remember watching the film last month in a theater, and I think that is the way that everyone should watch the film. Um, because I think film media is supposed to be consumed in the theater. So watching that for me was actually one of the best experiences I've had in a theater um, since a long, long time because I was immersed in whatever ambience the film created, but also it left me with something at the end, of feeling of something very unsettling, um, which I was trying to figure out at the end of the film. So that is
I
what I
remember you calling me the
first
other
thought. Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Sorry, I remember you
yeah.
calling me the other day and asking me describe the film in one word, and I was like,
Yeah,
it was really nice, but then you mentioned this word unsettling, and then it just
yeah.
clicked. I mean, that's how that film is to be. I mean, if you have to summarize it in a word, I think unsettling would be the best one.
Of, yeah,
So
yes, I think so. So
yeah, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
since you watched it, um, what were your first impressions of the film? What did you immediately notice while watching the film?
So it was a pretty unique take on the Holocaust that I would like to mention. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there has been a movie which is based on this theme but does not show any violence, on screen violence or on screen blood.
Yeah,
The director tries to show this using, that one scene where he highlights on a rose and then he zooms in and all the screen
yeah,
becomes red. It was a great scene.
yeah.
But apart from that, he doesn't show true gore or true violence. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really a very unique take on the film. That's what I feel. Plus, while wearing the
Yeah.
headphones and watching the film, there's this certain background sound going on continuously that
Mm-hmm.
keeps us restless, I would say, for the entire
Yes,
film. Yeah,
yes. So I think that film was a very good contrast between what we see as a viewer and also what we hear as a viewer. And it is also that sort of paradoxical view that we get as a viewer in terms of, yes, there's a normal life which is going on, which is just beside the concentration camp, which
right.
doesn't really make sense, to be honest, but probably it is a deeper look at what that might have been.
Understood.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, apart from that, so amazing sound that, I mean, there's no
Hmm.
doubt about that. But apart from that, what did you think of the theme, or any points that you would like to mention about the story which you felt were different from the ones that you have already watched? Anything or any themes that you felt that you these are the few takeaways?
Oh, yes, of course. I think it is depicting a sort of mundanity of life in a way that things are very just going on. Just hold on a second. Are you hearing this?
No.
Okay, sorry, there was like a lot of firecrackers, which
Oh,
I don't know. Anyways, so just hold on a moment, please.
yeah, yeah, sure, no issues.
Can you hear this or no?
No, I cannot actually.
Okay, okay, okay. So I'll continue. So
Yeah.
I thought the film was more about, at least from what I felt, it was this sort of just regular normal life which is going on all the time. But I think what makes us unsettling is um, that we know what happened during the war. We know what happened during the Holocaust, and we are trying to figure out something which is going on the other side of the wall, and we are constantly in that feeling where we want to go and explore what is happening over there, but the film never lets us go to that area, just makes us hear and see glimpses of that area sometimes. So I, I think watching that, knowing what the Holocaust was, and at the same time that situation just being normalized is, I think, what is probably currently happening in the world as well, with real time wars going on.
Yeah,
So one interpretation of that might be that, hey, you know what, there's a war going on and similar things are happening in the world right now.
right. That's true. I feel that one of the motivations behind the making the film must be the current status of the world, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very good point. So one of the things that I noticed was, and it was strikingly, uh, I mean, it was strikingly different in terms of how people behave. Was that
Hmm.
the how indifferent the Hoss family was to their surroundings? Like,
Yes.
we could literally hear gunshots. We could literally hear
Yeah.
people burning. Uh,
Yeah.
we could literally hear screams at night, and
Yes.
that the entire family had been kind of, it was, they were indifferent, and they had become used to these noises. They It was
Hmm.
nothing but um, how we generally perceive moving cars on the roads and while we are walking. So it was probably something
Yeah.
like that for them.
Of course, I
And
think it was yeah, continue.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I think it was a normalization of the horrors of whatever was going on for the Hoss family in
Right,
particular.
right. And I mean, one thing that I thought was interesting, or one thing that I thought was a good takeaway from this film, was that if you are indifferent for some injustice going on in the world for a long time,
Hmm.
then you get used to it. You get used to it, and you you feel that it's like you mentioned, normalization of horrors, right? Right. So it becomes normal life for us. And more than that, more dangerous than that is the feeling of that being the comfort zone. As you can see, when
Yeah.
she does not want to move out of that place, right? Even the
Hmm.
commander Hoss is not really happy about his transfer, and they have this whole
Yeah.
discussion about how I should raise the children, how you should work for the family. And even in the
Yeah.
end of the film, he is actually happy for coming back to that place. If you remember the
Yeah.
conversation on the phone. So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that I think is the worst nature of humans that has been portrayed in the film, is to be indifferent and then making it your own comfort zone, and
Yeah.
living it as though nothing, I mean, living it as though there's no other injustice going on, right?
Hmm. I think that is
And
one perspective. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
sorry. And the thing is, we know, like as viewers, that she doesn't hate the prisoners, because if I won't say hate, she doesn't loathe the prisoners, because you can see her trying out clothes from the prisoners, that fur, and even wearing the lipstick. And if you actually hate someone from the bottom of your heart, then you might just throw those things away. And even in the entire film, there's no bad thing spoken about the prisoners, if you remember. Like, it's just normal
Yeah.
conversations. And to
Yeah.
support
Correct.
this point, like, if a third person like her mother enters that environment, and she realizes that, this is not the right place for me, so she cannot even make the change to make her daughter as well as her son-in-law to move out from here, and the only thing she can
Yeah.
do is to move herself out. So it's either indifference or either ignorance, and that's, I think,
Yes.
is one of the worst uh, natures of humans that has been portrayed in the film.
Hmm. But I think that film poses this question very accurately, in the sense that are the are all the members of the Hoss family pretty cruel because they are normalized to the horrors of whatever is going on around them? But if you think about it, I think it is something that we have to think about, and everyone can arrive at a very different conclusion, because we sitting here right now in a very different time period, in a very different setting. We don't experience war on a day-to-day basis. We are not in that situation. So putting ourselves in that situation, it definitely poses a question that would we do the same thing as well? Like, would we be normalized to the horrors of the surroundings?
Right. Got it. Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. I mean, it's like you can easily judge someone who is like in on screen, but like when it
yeah.
comes,
Hmm. So, I cannot hear you.
Yeah. Now, is it better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
So, like I was saying, um, just to reiterate, uh, can you remember the last point that we were talking about? Sorry.
I could not hear anything after
Okay.
what I said. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. Never mind. So, uh, yeah. So, any other points that you would like to mention about the film?
Oh, yes, of course. I think that those were probably my favorite scenes in the film. Um, there was one which was like two or three scenes where the girl is putting apples for the prisoners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And watching that was like, um, it sort of is a very hopeful scene, that even in that time of war, there are people who genuinely feel a need to be good and a need to do something for humans, basically, or life in general. So there are there is always some part of society which is always going to be good no matter what you do. And
right.
watching that was very heartwarming, I would say.
Yeah. Fun fact, that is actually based on a true story. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's actually, I'm not sure about the entire story, but
Hmm.
I think it was a Polish girl
Hmm.
who used to lay down apples for the prisoners without
Hmm.
kind of getting caught. So yeah, it was a very good subplot added during the film.
Yes, of course. And it was
Yeah.
very unexpected because it was unexplained,
Yeah.
and we don't really know what happens to the girl. We don't really know what is
Yeah.
happening
For a second,
with the,
I assumed that the girl was actually his daughter, Commander Huss's
yeah,
daughter. And
yeah, yeah,
then I
yeah.
was like, oh, but then she probably just goes to some other house and that
Hmm.
resolves that.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah, great discussion. Any other points that you would like to add? Uh,
yes. So I was immediately after the film, I wanted to read up more about it, and especially the cinematography, because it is very unique in a way. It is not in your face because it isn't meant to be in your face. And when I was reading up about it, when I saw a video about it, that the crew, at least the film crew, they just left the actors and they left the stage and they left the scene, and the actors were basically allowed to do whatever they want. And
right,
I think that adds an element to it because it just feels natural. You are watching characters just do anything that they want, and
right,
probably trying to be in that situation, and there is no
right,
director to say cut. or give you directions basically. So I think that was pretty interesting. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is something unique that I've heard in a while.
Right, right. And there are also a few scenes I feel that have been left open to the audience in a sense that
Hmm.
they have not shown exactly what goes on behind the scenes, but then the audience has to assume what to fill in the gaps. Like, for example, the
Hmm.
affairs that they have, or um, uh, that was one of the examples. Another
Yeah,
scene was uh, when um, I mean, a scene where she the mom leaves her house and then she just leaves a letter and then
yeah,
there's no conversation between them again. So something
yeah,
like that. It's left out to the viewers to fill in the blanks. That's also a good
yeah.
thing.
Oh, yes. I think there are countless scenes which were just very beautifully shot and they had so much impact. Like when
Yeah,
the horse family goes in the river to bathe, and I assumed that in the theater they probably found a body or something, a body part, and they immediately got out of the river and had a shower. And do you
yeah,
remember that scene?
yeah. So he's fishing and then
Yeah, correct.
he comes across something and then yeah, it was quite ambiguous to me uh
Hmm.
what that piece
And
was.
yeah, so I would assume that it is some part of one of the um,
Prisoners.
prisoners, and I think that was the only moment when they felt something really bad about, or something that needs
Understood.
to be washed. And
Yeah,
that was probably the only scene that depicted that. Apart from that, there was no scene which depicted that. So I think we get a glimpse into what is, you start feeling things when you actually pay your attention to all of those things. But then you can just, in one state, you can just shut off all the uh, m- many things that you experience in life, like sounds.
that's true. That's true. Hmm. Great discussion. Any points you would like to add, or should we probably just end it for now? Get back on some other
Yes. We can end it now, right
video.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to add? Like, in the sense of,
Uh,
was there any technical aspect that you were fascinated about? Was there any scene
the
which you really liked?
yeah. So there was one scene that I loved was when he is narrating a story to her
Hmm.
daughter and reading a book,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
then the story and then the kind of scene shifts to the girl in the negative
Yeah.
negative film, and that was a very interesting transition. The second transition was when the camera shows different flowers and then the rose and then it zooms
Hmm.
on the red color. That was
Yeah.
also an interesting transition. And lastly was the last music, like the credit music. That was
Yeah.
also very, I mean, you could hear screams in that music, literal
Hmm.
legit screams. So
Yeah.
another part that I loved.
Yeah. Also, one other question that I wanted to ask you. I don't think we have discussed the ending of the film, which is also, I think, something we can discuss probably later.
Yeah.
Um, but after you watched the film, after you were done with the film, do you think it is a film that you, from which you can take something away, and something that will impact your life in a way?
Yes, definitely. So, like I mentioned, one of my key takeaways was that being aware of the surroundings, of the injustice around us, and not
Hmm.
just following the typical behavior that goes on, um,
Yeah.
avoid being indifferent, There was this quote that I like actually. So it goes like the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference.
Yeah.
Because if you hate someone, you basically do care a bit about what he or she feels about you,
Mm-hmm.
or how you can be better than the other person. But if you're indifferent towards that person, you don't give a damn about what goes on in their life.
Mm-hmm.
You are all, I mean, you don't care. So,
Yeah.
in a sense, indifference can be much more lethal than hate.
Yes. Of course. I think that is a perfect way to view the film afterwards, and something which you can take away from the film.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I think we can end this right now. Good
Mm-hmm.
discussion. Hope to catch
Yes.
you up soon. Catch up with you.
Yes. Same here.
All right. See you. Take
All
care.
right. See you.